Hello and welcome to Ophelia Does Magic. I am Ophelia, I am a baby witch, and I am now, I guess, on YouTube. I'm on YouTube talking about my spiritual journey and the stuff that I'm going through, documenting my life. I guess this is just my little online video diary. I keep a ton of regular diaries, but saying that I already do YouTube videos, I just thought it would be interesting to have a go at trying to document my life as a pagan, a practicing witch. You know what? I am so new to everything anyway that I figure I might as well just capture this this innocence while I have it, because things are going to get really crazy from here. I don't want to start out on the, I mean, this whole thing is so new and so rapidly changing, and everything is bubbling up, and I have all these ideas circling in my head. But the first thing I guess I wanted to talk about is my depth year. My depth year, which started on the full moon in Taurus. It was November 19th when I officially started, and it wasn't something that I had even really known was going to start at the time. I thought I was going to do a depth year when the new year came around, like the calendar new year came around, and I was kind of winding down to prepare for it until I basically got a download. Like, you got to do it now. And then I did divinatory readings. I kind of like clarified with my deity and tried to figure out, like, is this really what I need to do? And yes, it was a resounding yes. And I ran into some materials, how spirit does things, like things just kind of land in your lap and stuff happens. I found some materials that would allow me to make basically a manifestation or a wish. I read Keiko, her book, The Power Wish, and I did my Power Wish in Taurus. I asked for, I did a grounding and a centering and a gratitude-based Power Wish, basically saying, like, I'm thankful that my depth year is going amazingly. I'm thankful that I have everything that I need, and I have all the emotional stability that I can want, and I am moving through this year with so much gratitude and so much grace and happiness and abundance with everything that I already have in my life, and I don't even feel a craving to go out and spend my money and to do things that are superfluous, and all of that. I am focusing on me. I'm spending time with myself, and I am learning spiritually. I'm growing and all that stuff, and here we are, practically December, and I just want to talk a little bit about the depth year before it escapes me, and I'm not really able to commit it to action. I think there's something about recording something, archiving it, making it solid, and not just writing it down in a diary, because I have done that, but actually committing myself to doing it in the public eye that I feel like I would love to share. So if anyone is out there watching, but if there isn't, this is just for me. So I was kind of introduced to the depth year through pagan YouTube, through, I think it was TarotTube or whatever. I was watching all these different videos, and people were talking about a depth year, and it happened earlier. So I think this will be the only depth year 2022 video that goes up, because I haven't seen any yet. And it really became important to me, not just in my spiritual life and the materialism associated with spirituality, which in the New Age movement, there's a lot of stuff you can get, right? It's a highly aesthetically driven industry. Not that aesthetics are bad, or that we should shun all things that are beautiful, or that we have to separate beauty and life and material objects with the spiritual, because I think what is so beautiful and lovely about pagan YouTubers and pagan materials and stuff like that, like, I'm seeing a lot of witches and magicians and ceremonial magicians and stuff like that, like, they have beautiful things and they have beautiful homes, and it allows them to create this sense of awe and beauty and wonder around their spiritual practice. I think what becomes dangerous is the replacement of spirituality with materialism, and I think I was not heading down that path. I don't think I was getting there, but I was getting to a point where I was becoming a little bit single-minded with what I was doing with my money. I was like making money just so I could buy more crystals and more tarot cards, and that was not where I wanted to go with my craft, and I knew that that wasn't what I wanted to do. And so it came to a head. I found these things, I found these blog posts, and I found these videos, and I just decided, Spirit brought me into contact with these pieces of content because it was what I needed to see. And, I started getting in my head that I was going to wind down the year, not buy any new tarot decks. I'm not going to buy any things outside of specific workings and spell items that I would need for particular spellcraft. And then, like I mentioned, I was moved to do it immediately. I wasn't really given the chance to wind down for 2 months. I really just had to jump in and start. And so what is the depth year? Like, what am I actually trying to achieve for myself? What am I trying to get out of it? And what will it look like in a year when I reflect again in November, and I think, okay, like, a year has passed. Have I done the thing? Have I done it? Have I done the deed? For me, a depth year is really focusing in on me, turning inwards, looking inwards. And I have another channel I mentioned a little bit earlier. I have a YouTube channel, and I talked about it with regards to makeup, because the depth year you know, for me is all about temperance, tempering everything, putting everything in alignment. It's not just spiritual life in one box and everything else mundane, you know, consensus reality life in another box. I'm really trying to make a concerted effort to align the two pieces of my life, you know, bring spirituality into every piece of what I do, use my witch's mind and my blessings and my ability to see things with compassion, with that, I don't know, when you get into a spirituality mode, you're like plugged into the universe, you're like feeling the vibrations, you're very cognizant of your actions, you're respectful, you're clean. You know, I just think I take so much pride in my spiritual work, and I want to do the same in my regular work. And, you know, with my regular work, I'm so meticulous about things that I choose and I curate, and I'm you know, so loving with my items. I'm so, you know, particular about this and that, and I want to bring that into my spirituality as well. So I kind of want to integrate everything, right? For my depth year regarding my spirituality, there's a couple things that I love about the depth year and that I want to kind of keep at the helm of this project. The first is that it's not a deficit based project, which I'm really excited about. You know, no buy year, low buy year, no spend year, all of those things are framed in a way, and I don't think that they mean it that way, but they're all framed in a sense of lack, right? Like, we are lacking the ability to buy things. We are lacking the discipline to keep a budget. We are cutting out certain things, right? If we're thinking about a diet, going at it from banning certain foods or restricting certain things, like, we know that, I mean, we call a spade, right? You are cutting out those things, but it's a certain frame of mind. It's a certain, you know, like the way you label things, you know, words matter. And I think the perspective that we take when we go into things matter. And so for me to shift from a deficit mindset, like, okay, we're not allowing ourselves to buy things, instead of using that like punitive measure and saying, it's not that we're not allowing it, we're just choosing, instead opting to dive deeper with what we already have, you know, it makes it a little bit less tempting. You know, instead of having that really strict, stringent rule, it's almost like if instead of prohibiting something, you are just making the option a little bit less ideal or less interesting or less appealing. And that kind of deters one from doing that kind of thing. So I'm actually really pleased that the depth year has allowed me to spend a little bit of money. It's allowing me to spend a little bit on tarot cards and oracle cards and beautiful witchcraft boxes and stuff like that. But I'm not going to want to do it that much, because what I really want is to focus on what I have, what is before me, what I already accomplished, and to go deeper and to try more. So some problem categories that I noticed in my life, my wishy life, that were spiraling out of control. Firstly, the tarot cards had to stop. The tarot cards had to stop. I was picking up several jobs on the side, literally to fund this addiction. I mean, it wasn't an addiction in the sense that like I couldn't stop myself, but I just, you know, tarot cards speak to me in a way that not many other parts of witchcraft speak to me. There's something, I mean, it could be the fact that it was the first thing that got me into this whole thing, and at the time it wasn't even seen as a mystic item. It was just like a self-help tool, and it turned into what it was. It could be connection to spirit, connection to deity. It could be connection to my subconscious and the wisdom that I've gained. It could be the fact that like I was picking up speed and starting to be able to read intuitively, and I was really starting to get more clear messages. It could be the fact that I wanted to read one day and I decided that if I was going to be a reader, I was going to have a lot of decks. It could be that I got onto TarotTube and seeing people talk about decks just made it visible to me that I could curate a collection of my own. It could have been that, you know, I was getting this money from other jobs, and so I had money freed up. It was also, you know, the artwork from many artists that I loved. You know, I'm a woman who loves art, visual art, any kind of art. And so to be able to collect tarot decks was a very tangible way for me to have a lot of beautiful art and to use it on a regular basis. And I did a whole video on my other channel about like why tarot was so important to me, not just as a witch, but as a person. Like, tarot is a beautiful way to get a hold of art and interact with it in a way that, you know, you having to use it to make meaning of it, that in itself is so powerful and so interesting and such an important part of my daily routine. And I do tarot twice a day, every single day. Sometimes I sit down once a week and I have like a serious sit down ritual with tarot. And it's just a really nourishing and important part of my daily practice. And so anyway, I got to a point where I got a lot of tarot decks and I want to just slow down a bit. In other topics, I think I'm pretty much okay. I mean, I'm allowing myself to buy crystals for workings. So if I need to do, for instance, a prosperity spell or a banishing spell or a healing spell or whatever, and I don't have a particular crystal that I want for that thing, I can go get it because I don't have a really bad habit of serial buying crystals, like chain buying them, like one after the other. Incenses as well. I'm just going to use up my incense pile, and then, you know, when I get to it, I can replace those items. One of the problem areas I do have, though, is books and candles. Books and candles. I mean, obviously, every witch is obsessed with those two things, right? So my promise for books is just that my depth year is going to include me reading the books that I have in my collection already. And I don't have a ton. I tend to be a borrower of books rather than a purchaser of books. And even when I do purchase books, I think I tend to buy them. I tend to borrow them or read them first and then decide that they're worth rereading, and then I purchase a copy for myself. Unless it's a really obscure text, which isn't available for me to peruse elsewhere and I have to buy it to get a copy, in which case, yeah, then I'll just do that. But just the rule is that I have to be able to finish the books in my TBR shelf and really kind of go through the workbooks, go through everything before I'm willing to purchase and replace them again. And I don't think that's unreasonable or anything like that. And that will be the book rule. The candle rule will be the same, one in, one out. And, when I use up my stash of candles, especially for just ambient candles, offertory candles, sometimes I try to stockpile those because I'm like, oh, but they're for deity, like they're for my altar space. But I don't need more than one. And the candles do last a very, very decent amount of time. You can burn them for many, many hours and they do a decent amount of heavy lifting, and you don't need to have a stockpile of those. So I'm going to have to go through my candles. And another thing that I just tend to be attracted to, like a little crow picking up little shiny things or a magpie, is decor pieces, little altar pieces here and there. I got some tapestries, some lights, some mood, trays, trinkets, bells, those kinds of things. And what is interesting is they do make my altar space beautiful, and they do make the area sacred. And I do love the way that they make my space feel and the way that they upgrade my witchy spiritual life. And so I'm not going to be too particular. This is the thing about the depth year, is I'm not going to be too particular about rules. It's really just an idea that we're going to go deeper and not wider. We're not going to try new things until we finish old things. We're really going to focus in on what we already know and love and have. I'm going to give myself a lifeline though. Every, is it 7 to 8 weeks? I think it's 6 to 7 weeks is a Sabbath. So between every Sabbath, I think I'm going to allow myself one lifeline in each category. So if I really, really need a book and I'm needing to have a failure in one aspect, I'll allow myself one book every 6 to 7 weeks. I will allow myself one tarot deck every 6 to 7 weeks. I will allow myself one candle every 6, it's going to slow down dramatically. I was chain buying all these items like a madwoman. And some of these items are consumable products, and some of them are not. So in terms of candles and incense, it's fine. You can use them up. It's not a big deal. But in terms of books, in terms of tarot decks, in terms of oracle decks, in terms of furniture, trinkets here and there, those things don't go away. And so the depth year hopefully is going to be a time for me to really buckle down and to get to know the things that I already have. And it's been great so far. There are some things that have been tempting me. I think for sure one of the biggest triggers is indie decks and these beautiful independent artists, which I support and I see from afar. But what I can tell from the depth year already is that having that budget, deciding in advance that I'm only going to buy one thing per category per Sabbath, it's already made me a little bit more discerning. Typically if something goes on mass market and it's easy for me to get a hold of on Amazon and it's only $20, it's really easy to say yes, because $20 is maybe like a meal with friends, and you can just kind of cook in one day and you can make that up. Or maybe it's a couple things from the grocery store that you leave on the shelf and you don't buy. So it's very easy for me to justify a $20 purchase here and there. But it's a lot harder for me to know that there's a budget of one item and I can only use that one item on the one thing that I need for a lifeline, and to waste it on something, mass marketing or impulsy or whatever, just because the cost is low. And so I think ultimately I will be saving money on my depth year, but the biggest thing is I will be flexing my moderation muscles, really, trying my best and my hardest to not allow my inner child to throw a tantrum, and this is the reason why the depth year is so spiritual for me, is because it's about reparenting, it's about shadow work, it's about going inwards and wondering, what is this trying to fill? I mean, sometimes it's not really trying to fill anything. Sometimes it's just that I'm in my feelings about something that I like and I just like it. And it's not to impress anyone. And it's not because I have some baggage from my childhood. It's just that the thing tickles my fancy. Sometimes it's deep, sometimes it's that I want to do something the right way, because if I don't do it the right way, it reminds me of in my childhood when I wasn't doing something in a way that pleased my mother. And, you can open up a whole can of worms, and sometimes it is that. But I am excited to pursue this depth year in a way that allows me to become a richer, more wise person. Witchcraft and paganism, diving into philosophy, diving into spirituality. The whole thing is incredibly scary, and putting it on YouTube is a type of scariness that I can't even begin to put into words, because once you start to incorporate faith into stuff, you leave yourself wide open to criticism. I'm a double air sign, so in many ways I am very, very anti just faith-based teachings. In many ways I think that is why I'm attracted to certain things like chaos magic and stuff like that. I'm very, very attracted to on the ground practical magic that has palpable, tangible results, and you can iterate and stuff like that. And so when we talk about faith, when we open ourselves up to criticism about faith, and we can't prove things empirically, and who knows, everything is all internally processed, it becomes a very difficult conversation for me to open up about, but I feel like it is important. And I feel like the transformation that I'm going to undergo with this depth year is going to be, beyond words. I don't know when would be a better time for me to document this, right? So that's why I'm coming up here, is because I do feel that something tremendous is about to happen on the horizon. And I feel like I am going to undergo a very, very serious metamorphosis of strength of mind, of strength of character, of potentially my witchy powers and my ability to understand things and process things, and even to, focus and meditate and direct energy and all that stuff, right? All of the parts of magic that we know and love, but also on a very mundane level. I think I'm just going to be a better person, and I want to document it on my YouTube channel. I want this to be here as a record for me to see. When I started, I was this very unsure, very scared, very insecure baby witch who saw things and liked things and wanted to have them just because there was that little baby inner child, like, la la, whining, throwing a tantrum deep in her little soul seat, That is the kind of person that I'm starting out as on this journey. And I am excited to try new things. I am excited to hurt a little bit. I'm excited to crave and want and to whine. As terrible as it sounds, I want to go through something that makes me a better person. And I already see so many changes. I already see so many profound changes. I've been practicing now for probably pretty seriously, having a daily practice for around 6-ish months now. It's been a very major part of my life. Yeah, probably since that long. And I can't even imagine 12 months from now what kind of person I'll be. I've already had such a drastic transformation of self. I went home to see my in-laws last week, and they already told me that I seem like a much happier, much calmer person. Actually, they told my husband, and he let me know that something about my energy has shifted. And when you're around people day in and day out, they don't really see changes. And he said that I seem like a better, calmer person, more mature person. But hearing that from my in-laws was really, really exciting. And so I just wanted to come here and document, because I don't want to lose any more time. I don't want to be able to look back and just have a vague sense of what happened. I really want to see exactly what I was going through. And hopefully on this channel, I will be doing updates, not just on my depth year, but all other kinds of little baby witch happenings. It's not going to be a very polished channel. It's not going to be a polished channel. It's not going to be an informative channel. It's not going to be a channel that teaches anything, really. It's just going to be a video diary. And I hope that's okay with you guys. If you guys are out there watching, if anyone sees this, if it's just me, hello me from the future. It will be very exciting to see you. I want to talk a little bit about what would a depth year in success look like. If I had a successful depth year, God, I hate that word. It's so hard to say. But if I do complete a depth year successfully, what does that actually look like in terms of my physical environment? What does it look like in terms of my magical and spiritual environment? What does it look like in terms of my internal environment? So let's break that down a little bit. Externally, I don't suspect much will change. With my witchcraft stuff, it's new. So I don't have years and years of accumulated junk that I have to declutter. In many ways, lots of people are doing depth years when they come to a point in their lives where it's too much. They have too much stuff, they have too much this or that, or they're they've got stuff coming out of their ears. I mean, I'm not at that point right now because I'm new to this. So what I do imagine happening is a slight curation of the decks that I have. So maybe getting rid of a couple decks that I know I haven't touched in a long time. If there are decks that I haven't touched in a long time, then maybe those will go. And I do suspect that I will get new tarot decks. I mean, I do suspect that I will get probably 6 to 8. 6 if I don't use all of my Sabbath lifelines, and 8 if I use every single one of them. And I suspect that all 8 of them will be really nice decks, really nice 10 out of 10 decks that I have 100% certainty that they will add something to my life. I'm trying to use that parameter where if something is not an A or higher, I'm not going to bring it into my life. And I know for a fact that there are some creators that are coming out with stuff in 2022 that I want to pre-order, and it's okay. I'm leaving myself space for that. What I'm not allowing is chain buying, impulse buying, buying for the sake of the high, or buying because, just cause it's cheap, why not? That's what I want to avoid. I'm not trying to avoid spending whatsoever. I'm not trying to avoid the influx of new whatsoever. I'm not trying to become ascetic or to be very miserly or anything like that. I just want to shift that dopamine rush craze that I was getting, because I think that is pretty antithetical to spiritual growth. I don't think spiritual growth has to be hermetic in nature. I don't think you have to be a hermit or a monk or anything like that. But I do think you have to have a certain level of stability. And so that's what I'm looking for. In terms of, other physical things, I don't really think there's that much. I mean, it would be nice to have some more crystals maybe, and to have more altar stuff, like to have different colored placemats or altar cloths, so that way I can do planetary magic and stuff like that. But you know, it's going to come with particular spell work. So if I do a Jupiter working, for example, I might get some corresponding materials for Jupiter, so I can do a spell that has to do with expanding and growth and stuff like that. But I don't imagine I will have a ton more stuff, or if I do have a ton more stuff, I don't imagine that it'll be clutter. I think it will just be a natural expansion of my practice, and that's okay. That's totally okay. I'm very, very okay with an intentional expansion of my practice and my tools. That's great, and that's fine, because how else am I going to grow as a witch? In terms of my internal spiritual practice, I would love to get better at what I already study. So getting better at tarot, which is something that I already feel like, you know, you fall into a pit that is bottomless, and you fall in a very long while, but the pit just continues to go and go and go. You know, that's how I feel about tarot. To continue to learn about magic and the kinds of magics that are out there, the kinds of magical frameworks that exist, and really kind of finding out all the information. There's something so beautiful about the occult, and about all this information that is out there. And it's almost, you know, the little Gemini moon in me is like a hungry little animal, you know, trying to get a hold of every scrap of information. And the reason why it's so interesting to me is because the information is so scattered and so out there, and you have to kind of read everything and distill it. So in a spiritual sense, I hope I become much more educated, much more knowledgeable about all the different kinds of things. And I hope that I can increase the depth of my knowledge in terms of what I already know and what I don't know, and my beliefs, you know, really carving out some beliefs. I'm not in a rush to do it. I know that as a baby witch, you're not really supposed to put labels on things too quickly. You're not supposed to presume that, you know, the one framework you have is correct, because you just don't know what you don't know. But I would love to know more, and I would love to use every single resource at my disposal to get there. And so that's why I'm okay with trying workshops and stuff like that if the need calls for it to go deeper in that sense. If I need to learn more about something, if I need to deepen my understanding of this particular creator and the materials that they provide, that's okay. So just going deeper in terms of spiritual understanding, spiritual education, that is a-okay with me. And in fact, I really look forward to getting to that level. I would also love to know all of my tarot decks by heart. That is a weird internal thing. I mentioned it with respect to my possessions, especially with makeup. But the example that I gave is, if I open up any random tarot deck, I would like to know what the cards look like. Is that like a weird thing to say? I would like to know what every single card looks like in every single deck. In my collection, I have many decks, and because I am relatively new to tarot, you know, with makeup, which is the only other comparison I can give. I'm so sorry if it's weird, but I have been into makeup for coming up on 15 years now, and so for me to have a lot of things, it's obvious because I've accrued this stuff over the course of 15 years, and I've been doing the same techniques and trying different things and whatever. I've been growing with the craft for that long. But for me, the craft, like the occult craft, the witchcraft craft, that is very new. It's very new. It's not even a year, right? We're coming up on a year of me like really kind of dipping my toes into the whole thing. I kind of dipped my toes into the whole thing around March. So we're not even in 1 year yet. And so there's a lot that I have to learn. There's a lot that I don't know that I picked up and I blasted through it very quickly, but that doesn't mean that I have a very intimate understanding of everything in my collection. And so I would like to pick up any given deck of cards in my collection, in my little bookshelf, and to know what the Page of Swords looks like, or to know what the Three of Cups or the Eight of Wands. I mean, in my head, there are certain things that Rider-Waite-Smith decks kind of have in common, but in particular for each individual deck, I would like to know which card is which. And I would love to also have a distinct idea of what cards are good for what. And not just like, oh yeah, I have a favorite deck for relationship readings, or I have a favorite oracle for these particular things, or I have a favorite whatever. But literally knowing the flavor and the vibe and the energy of every single deck that I own. Yeah, that would be amazing. I don't know what else. I mean, what would be a great depth year? I guess another great depth year would be a way for me to create and synthesize. And that's another thing that I'm trying to do on this YouTube channel, is to synthesize new information, to synthesize a project. I mean, I have always been someone who likes to create. And even though I'm not very educated, I'm not a reliable source for witchcraft information, I do think that producing a series of videos from the perspective of a baby witch, someone who is trying their best, trying in earnest to do this the right way, do it in a way that is informative and nourishing and good for the soul and good for progress, that is in a way a form of production, and I'm happy to do that. And I would love to say that at the end of the year, if I had 12 months worth of updates, random videos, live check-ins, stuff like that, concerns, questions, all that stuff, that would be great. And it would be a way for me to be present in the community in a way that really is authentic and makes sense. Another thing that I would love to see in the depth year is a detachment to money. And that is a difficult one. I know that financial prosperity and finances is a difficult and touchy subject, not only for regular people and witches, but for everyone, no matter what your socioeconomic status, no matter what your financial situation is. I think money is a tricky topic in life in general. I would love to have this, when you manifest things and you have this strong conviction that things are going to go the way that they're going to go, and you know in your heart that you are going to have that result. For me, I have a very, very strong sense of self. And so manifesting certain things, like knowing that I'm just a powerful badass witch, like that comes to me very, very naturally. So when I say I have powerful magic, I mean it. I fucking have powerful magic. So when we talk about manifestation, we want to make sure that we are manifesting something, making sure it is true, and then letting it go. And I want to have that relationship with money as well. The depth year is about my spiritual growth. It's about letting go of materialism. It's about getting deeper with things that I already have. It's about learning more, becoming stronger, and becoming wiser, and all that stuff. But I also want it to be about prosperity. I also want to be able to manifest money into my life, to manifest abundance, and to let it go. Let go of that vice grip on money, to let go of feeling like I have to count every single last penny in my bank account while also spending ridiculously. I mean, it was a bona fide shopping addiction, and it followed me no matter what I got into. And there's something about that neuroticism, like going from hobby to hobby, from thing to thing, and diving full on in, that allowed me to really make it permissive, to permit it in my habitual routine. And I want to kind of put that on its head. And so if at the end of next year, I can really detach myself from the addiction to money, the addiction of spending money, and, the vice grip with which I was holding on to money, and my feelings about money, and my guilt about money, all that stuff, if I can hold it a bit lighter because I'm in a healthier place overall, that will be a year well spent. Okay, I think that is everything. I don't think I have that much more to say about my depth year. I'm so happy that, I was able to sit down and kind of just have a chat about where I'm at right now. We are just a few weeks into my depth year, and things have already tempted me. It's already been difficult to keep to it. I do find myself wanting to walk around bookstores and pick up tarot decks and buy books and do things here and there. And I don't know why. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. When Yule comes around, that will be our first very serious update. So I have nothing as of right now, but thank you so much for watching. And thank you for being here. And thank me for having the courage to finally get it up to make a YouTube channel and to document my little baby witch journey. It's going to be very, very challenging and interesting to see where we go from here. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.